Okay, let's take a look at my 2013 Chevy Camaro as it appeared on the Copart website. Now, since this car is located in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm way down in far west Texas, all I had to go on was the photographs and the information located in the ad. For instance, it says highlight, run and drive. For instance, it says keys, yes. And it says seller, Bristol West Insurance. And I had the photographs. Photographs will tell you 1,000 words. They're worth 1,000 words. So you have to pay very close attention to them if you're not going to go look at the car in person. A lot of people will not go look at the car in person because of the expense of having to fly down there, rent a car, go to Copart, inspect the car, or paying an independent person in the area to go and look at it and inspect it for you. Especially if there's a good possibility you won't get the car. It'll go too high, more than you want to spend on it, or you just feel it's not a very good deal, or you lose the car in the auction. So if you spend the money to pay somebody to go inspect it, then you're out that money. If you pay to fly down there and inspect it yourself and then fly back home and bid on it, well, then you're out that money too. So you have to go by the photographs. Now, if you look closely at this photograph, you're going to see right here, there's a dent in the fender. Now, that dent occurred after the accident. The car was hit right here in this corner of the bumper reinforcement. It pushed the fender rather, back. So when the driver opened the driver's door, it caved in the fender, causing this damage right here. There's also some damage right in this area and in this area. One of the ways you can tell that damage is by zooming in on the photograph. What Copart does is sometimes, they don't do this all the time, is they'll draw lines. And the lines that they draw are to highlight the damage. You can actually see one right here. There's a line there, and there's a line right here. Now this line is done in chalk so that it can be removed without any kind of issue. So if we zoom in, you can see better the lines and the dent and this crushed portion of bumper reinforcement and the slightly off kilter headlight bracket frame assembly. Scroll down again. Now, if you have a really sharp eye, you can see right here the clear coat peeling. But it's very difficult to tell in these low resolution photographs. That's something I didn't notice. Now in this picture, you can see that there's a white strap right here around the steering column. Copart virtually always puts a strap around the key so that the key isn't stolen. but you know, people can still steal the key. I mean, if the key is not there and the strap is there, sometimes it has been removed by Copart and placed in the office. Now this is a very important picture right here. This is the main picture that I was concerned with examining the hardest. If you look at this picture closely, you can see the gap right here in the hood. That gap is good. This gap from this angle, you can't really see it, but there's another picture that you can see it. The gap is good. The front edge of the hood is not bent or damaged in any way. But if you look right here, this is the dead center of the hood. It comes to a perfect V point, as does this portion here. These two pieces are perfectly in a line with each other. But if you come straight down from here to here, you'll notice this hole and this hole are off kilter by about 4 to 6 inches. So this picture was the most concerning for me. And the angle of this dent right here is like this. So whatever vehicle hit this car came in from this direction, impacted the front bumper. So I knew that the frame rails, or the upper or the core support rails, were shoved over to the left. But I also knew that that would be no big deal to fix. And I fixed it with a simple 1.5 ton come-along, chain come-along. Now how I did that was with the frame loosened up on it. There's 6 bolts. There's 3 bolts on either side of the frame rail, bolting that frame on. I loosened up the bolts completely. I removed the bolts in these holes here and these 3 holes here, and I attached the come-along chain to, actually I attached it right here. These bolts I didn't completely remove them. I just loosened them. I removed them completely from here, and then I pulled with the chain the frame rail back to the straight position. And then on this side, I did basically the same thing, pulled it back over. So now, if you look at the front of my car, I drew a center line. I measured the tape measure from here to here, and then drew a mark on top, direct center. So I got that mark in direct center to this peak here. But as you can see from these pictures, this plastic portion is in the way. You cannot see any frame damage whatsoever because you can't see the frame. So you have to assume that if this was shoved over, it's going to need a new frame. Okay, now in this you can see I installed a new front bumper crash bar. And you can see underneath, this portion of the frame rail is completely shoved up. The rest of the frame going back was in pretty good shape. But cutting off the frame horns and welding on a new portion just wasn't an option. I don't like doing things half-assed. You can see it was scraped up pretty good here and in here. Another thing that worked out really well was the fact that these holes in reinforcement, bumper reinforcement, are exacting. So they will tell you how far, if you pull this portion of the frame rail to the right, and then the holes do not line up, I used a spreader bar, and I put it between the frame rails, and I spread it out so it was able to. I was able to put the bolts back into the proper factory holes, and that means that the frame rails are perfectly distanced from the right frame rail to the left frame rail. I took a 4x6 wood post, and held it up over the shock towers, and I strapped it down with 2 ratcheting straps underneath the motor so that I could safely remove the entire frame. I had to also undo the suspension completely. See, you can see the bottom of the frame rail was pretty banged up. But now it has a completely brand new frame. The AC condenser was undamaged. The radiator was actually broken. This is actually a section of headlight frame assembly that I brought from the junkyard, along with the new mounting base assembly for the front bumper reinforcement bracket, because this bracket was crushed in the collision, this portion here. Only on the exterior side. So I didn't use the opposite interior side, just the mounting bracket. And I replaced this entire piece here. This entire piece from the dealer was like $380. I actually bought this for $20 over at You Pull It. You can see it's kind of crinkled right here. That's from the accident. And you can see how this is damaged inward. And this little hole here is a headlight mounting bracket, as is this and this. So you have to have perfect distances, otherwise the headlight will never fit. Right here you can see the crushed frame rail, but it was only crushed on the outer side. So what I did was I drilled out the spot welds up in here, 2 here and 3 here, and then I removed this entire bracket, and there's actually a crumple zone right underneath here, and I cut it with a Sawzall, and I used that to weld in the new section below that I have right here on the ground. And you can see some of the glue residue I was talking about in my other video. And here is the clear coat peeling that was unnoticeable in the Copart advertisement photos. And the car was fully loaded, so it did come with the backup camera and the proximity sensors. And right here, you can see this door gap, which I didn't really pick up on when I examined the photographs on the Copart ad. This is a lot bigger gap than the driver's side. So I had to remove, and it actually hit the fender a little bit when I opened the door. So I had to remove this fender, undo the bolts, and slide the door back. And the gap is now perfect. And you can see how tight the front gap is. It's virtually touching the fender. It's always necessary to budget extra money for when you're doing one of these builds, especially if you're going to pay somebody to do this kind of work. It can really, really add up. I was the successful winner at $9,100, but I have put in, I have about $16,000 in this car right now. They are listed on eBay for anywhere from $24,000. I've seen them as high as $28,000 with the same options. Also, another thing, the front bumper on this car was replaced before, because these yellow spots would not have been there on the factory when the car was painted. So that's just something to keep your eye out for. Any kind of excess paint that will tell you that the car was at least touched up in some way or form or another. But anyway, that's all there is for this video. I hope you liked it. If you want to see the restoration of this car, please look at my other videos, subscribe, and thanks again for watching.